Hello and welcome to Attacking Third. I'm back. Sandra Herrera back in the host seat alongside Darian Jenkins and Jen Beattie. Thanks everybody for joining us. We've got a lot to talk about today. There's some updates with Savy King. There's a week 9 in front of us where we're going to have a ton of fixtures crammed into 2 days. So we have to prep as much as we can for the chaos that ensues. And we've also got a special interview today with Greta Kwedar. She's the first woman ever to coach a men's high school soccer team to a state championship. So make sure you stay tuned. We'll be right back after a quick break. Good morning and welcome to Attacking Third. I'm Sandra Herrera, joined alongside Darian Jenkins and Jen Beattie to chat all things women's soccer. We've got a latest update on Savy King, including statements from both the league and the NWSL Players Association. We have a NWSL Week 9 look ahead for everyone, some good games on the schedule, so we're going to take a big bite into that. And of course, we've got an interview with Greta Kwedar. She's the first woman ever to coach a men's high school soccer team to a state championship. And we love opening things up to the broader women's soccer community and learning as much as we can from everybody in the space. So thanks, everybody, for joining us today on Attacking Third, whether you're joining us live on YouTube or if you're on Golazo Network watching or listening to the podcast. We're just happy that you're here with us. So let's get cracking. But breaking news for everybody. Really rookie of the year type of news for everybody to pay attention to. We want to congratulate our very own Jessica McDonald on the birth of her new baby girl, Olivia Rose. She was born yesterday, and we just couldn't be more happy for her and her family. We are sending all our best wishes to her and to baby and family. Hope everyone's adapting well. We've got a little photo for everybody if you're joining us live. Look at Olivia Rose saying, "Hey, I'm here. I've arrived." We love it. What timing, right? Right out of Mother's Day weekend. And that's the true vibe setter here. How are you doing today, Darian, Jen? I feel like it's been a while since I've seen you guys. It's great to see your smiling faces again.
I was going to say, Sandra, it's so good to see your face and receive your energy. We're so happy that you're back. But I'm good. Seeing Jess's baby photo, knowing Jess is healthy, the baby's healthy, she's happy. She finally gets a girl. I absolutely love it. And just knowing Jess, this is a future national team superstar in literally whatever sport she wants to play, just like Jess's other kids. But I'm so happy for her. That just made my whole day. Jen, how we feeling?
I'm good. I'm the exact same, guys. I'm happy to see you back, Sandra. We missed you a lot, obviously. And then on the flip side, obviously amazing seeing Jess. All baby, they're all good, they're all well, and hopefully recovering. And I can't wait to meet the little one. I'll be honest. I'm like, can we do I'm desperate for an in-person Attacking Third, and babies, they all need to be there.
I got a feeling somewhere, some way, somehow, when they're both ready, we're gonna either hear or see Olivia Rose on background in some sort of random Attacking Third episode. We'll see. But again, God bless you all. We love you. We're thinking of you. Can't wait to see you back. Let's hop right in to what is happening in the world of women's soccer, and we're gonna start right at the top with some updates that we have received around Savy King and Angel City and the league following events that took place on Friday night. Angel City defender Savy King underwent a successful surgery on Tuesday to address a heart abnormality. The team announced in the days after King collapsed on the field during Friday's match against the Utah Royals. King had received on-field medical attention for roughly 74 minutes into the game at BMO Stadium in Los Angeles before she was transported to California Hospital Medical Center, and she later had surgery at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center. After the extended pause on the pitch, which roughly lasted about 10 minutes, the game resumed, and Angel City ended up winning that game 2-0. Following that match, the league had a statement saying that King had left the field in stable condition and that the choice to resume the game had followed league protocols. But the discussion outside of Friday night's events has left many players, coaches, fans, supporters, pundits, analysts, all questioning the decision to continue that match. Per operation rules in the NWSL 2025 manual, it states that it recognizes emergencies may arise which make the start or progression of a game inadvisable or dangerous for participants and spectators. Certain event categories automatically trigger the league office into an evaluation of whether delay or postponement is necessary. And that has really been the main point of discussion outside of Friday's events, even with this really wonderful update for Savy King that she has undergone a successful heart surgery, that she is on the mend and on the road to recovery. There have also since been additional statements from her family stating that on behalf of the family, along with Savy King, they've been very moved by all of the love and support from Angel City players, staff, and fans, and larger community, as well as soccer fans. They're blessed to share that Savy's recovering well. They're looking forward to having her home soon. And the league and the NWSLPA have also released statements following the good update for Savy King. The league issued a statement in regards of the actual policies and update and calling for updates on those game policies. The NWSLPA has demanded that the league update its policy on game postponements in the wake of a medical event. The statement further went on to read, these moments demand humanity, sound judgment, and restraint. Any medical emergency that requires the administration of life-saving care should bring play to an end. The match should not have continued. Our members are elite, world-class competitors who have proven that they can perform under unimaginable conditions, and that does not mean they should have to. And the league further kind of co-signed a bit on that statement, saying that player safety is paramount to the NWSL. The seriousness of this incident requires a deliberate process that is careful and methodical. That process is underway and will include necessary revisions and prioritize the consideration of player, staff, and fan well-being. Please continue to respect Savy's privacy. So thank you all for allowing me to set some of that up a little bit, because at this point, we're talking about a very terrible incident that occurred on a Friday night, and we're now discussing some of these updates through Thursday. So we're almost a week into all of this. And as far as a temperature check of all this, that I think has been the biggest point of conversation. Even when you all were so wonderful in trying to react to this sort of in real time, kind of post, weekend recap of games. And I have to wonder in these current statements out of this week, where the league essentially walks back a little bit what was initially stated out of that Friday night game, kind of saying that those things will be reviewed and that they're currently in the process of being reviewed. And so I guess for this is still the continuity of this conversation. And so for the two of you as former players, I think that's the big question that folks want to hear the two of you maybe kind of give your thoughts and opinions on. Is the timeline of these events, is this enough? Does it feel like it has to get to this moment in order to enact change? Because there's a layer of that here too, Darian. It sort of feels like as the league continues to grow and evolve in certain ways, it takes these very sort of hard lessons to trigger these moments of change. And so do you want to see the league be more proactive, or is it just one of these wait and see approaches every time?
No, it's to be more proactive. And I think where I was coming from with this, I mean, I said on the Sunday night show, I believe, the game should have not continued. This was a life-threatening situation. You saw players on both sides distraught over witnessing Savy King go down. Like I have goosebumps just even thinking about this. And I wasn't one of those people there, let alone on the field next to her watching this happen. And, we have the example of around the world, we've seen other footballers, something very similar happen where they've gone down and there's been immediate medical attention, which credit to the medical providers there on site, getting into action and making sure that she's stable and okay and getting her right to the hospital. But that situation is so serious, the game doesn't matter anymore. There's a human on the field going through something. And to me, it was a very simple thing to see and look at everybody and say, you know what? The game doesn't matter right now. This is not the utmost importance. Let's make sure she's okay. Let's make sure everybody is okay and that we do the right thing for this player and set precedent going forward. And yeah, the league, you said it well, there hasn't always been the most proactive approach when things that are very severe, whether it's medical, whether it's, you know, personal with the players, dealing with the PA and what, you know, CBA things, you know, I've lived through that with NWSL, and it takes until the very last moment to kind of push it over the edge and say, you know what, let's be really professional. Let's take a step back. These players are human beings. And it's disappointing that it took this to happen, but at least now we know for the future it's going to be taken very, very seriously and won't ever happen again. But Jen, I want to know how you feel about that too.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think you answered that so articulately, and all I would want to add is I think protocols are incredibly important, but should always be reevaluated as often as possible to just keep being more proactive within that. I think it's really, really difficult when it takes something like that to happen and players to have to step back on the field. And I can't even imagine, we said this on Sunday night, having reacted to it, how that would have felt. Especially, you know, coming from a player's perspective, we know all the medicals that happen going into a season, right? You have all the heart scans, you have the hearts checked, and that's the scary part. You don't know when, why, or who it's going to happen to, and that's why it's so difficult. But and I know how thorough those medical scans are. Like I remember doing mine in London before I went to BFC, and it was very thorough. So you feel safe. But it's the reaction off the back of it that I've also, it's credit to the PA for kind of raising concerns and players speaking out about it as well. Because I do think it's an important one. Of course, you never want it to get to this point. We've seen it happen in the men's game, like what you said, Darian. And I think player safety is number one, obviously. And mental health in this day and age as well is number one, also right up there. So I think protocols, look, staff there followed a protocol. So they did the right thing. And everyone involved, medical, I think the family's word speaks volumes. I think they felt very looked after. And I think that's always the best reaction, as long as Savy and her family are, you know, through the worst situation, felt looked after. That's the best case scenario. And now it's the bigger picture. Like, what can we do for football and everyone else involved in it to make it the best out of a very, very serious situation? So going forward, protocols always need to be evaluated consistently before things like this happen. And look, there's been a lot of statements, but that's why it's open for discussion. But ultimately, I think the league and PA need to come together to kind of reevaluate just sooner before these things happen.
Yeah, it's something like this is probably going to take that. It's going to take more of that kind of collaborative effort. I know instinctually it is like the league. And to a certain extent, yes, I think we can maybe all agree to that to a certain extent. And I think when you look back, I mean, that was the other part that was coming out of this. People were immediately looking for game day operation manuals, like trying to find those sections. And it says within there, right, one of those categories is like dire, severe medical emergency. And then there's also that caveat of it. It's like, well, what constitutes that severe medical emergency? And I think part of the PA statement is layering that in there and saying, like, if life-saving care had to be administered, then that probably checks the box of what that means. And unfortunately, it was either you or Darian or Eugen who mentioned it, but there's this strange, terrible precedent that exists now where unfortunately it's no longer becoming this sort of uncommon tragedy. We can point back to across sport as well, across different sport, where we're seeing some of these things occur. There are professional athletes who are all of a sudden find themselves going through some sort of cardiac episode. And that's part of those things that get layered into the fear and the scariness of it all. And I think I can only imagine what it was like being there in that moment. And for those of us who were not, kind of watching it, on their TV or tablet or whatever, and you're reacting to what you're seeing, and you see fans very distraught, supporters hugging each other, for emotional support. And I think there was maybe a second there where folks maybe thought this game wouldn't go on, and then all of a sudden they're out there playing. And it also sort of feels like, because we're talking about this on a Thursday from last Friday, there's perhaps some layers of what comes next and wait and see approach, because at the end of the day, this is a player's health and wellness that is at the forefront of all this. No one is trying to, know more about a player's condition. And I think that's also been interesting to note, that the league has been pretty adamant about that. And I think in each of their statement, there's been an emphasis on respecting the player privacy, to where I think the sub question to that is like, no one's out here asking anybody to commit a HIPAA violation. Mm-hmm. So much of the conversation around, again, this is boiled down to the two parts. Everyone hoped and wished that Savy King was okay and is on the mend. And number two, why did the game continue? Those are literally the two main parts. So this kind of updated statement from the league that kind of admits, hey, we need to review things moving forward, to also kind of still add that cap, like, by the way, make sure you respect Savy King's privacy. It's like, yeah, it's like, no kidding. Like, yes. And so I do wonder if the update now is part of that. You want to make sure that the player and the family are okay. And to your point, Jen, that should be the main thing, that the player and their family felt looked after, felt taken care of. And as far as the lingering question, but the other lingering question around that is like, well, whose decision is it? There are folks who are like, oh, that's the ref's decision, or that's that comes down to league operations. And I think it's a fair question in a number of ways to the league itself, because as we continue to sort of broaden the conversation around this, as we're days removed and you get to reflect to it, I couldn't help but think of the bigger women's sports angle of it all, in that you have a terrible circumstance like this occur. And there were a lot of folks that brought up the NFL and Damar Hamlin as an example. Mm-hmm. And I could not help but think, we are talking about two leagues that are wildly different, and wildly different in terms of exposure, support, resources. And I couldn't help but think about that and wonder if part of the wait and see approach and the constant reevaluation of rules and protocols is because this is such a young league with a very specific amount of resources. We think about how just this game took place. It took place in Los Angeles against Angel City and Utah Royals. And this is a club that has probably become, in a short span of time, one of the most iconic brands that is recognized in women's soccer. And yet they are just now celebrating the fact that they have their own training facilities. And so what comes after, or what comes in the line of play in terms of making those calls? So if it does fall in the league office, what does that mean? Does it mean making sure you have a place to play the remainder of that match? Does it mean getting a sign off from the clubs that you should just call it completely? Does Utah feel like they get put in a peculiar position if they are turning a corner in a match and all of a sudden there's all of these strange things that come into play? So I can't help but wonder if so much of getting to this point where we're at now, a statement from the PA and an additional statement from the league saying, yes, correct, those protocols are going to be reviewed. It does make me wonder if this is just how women's sports, unfortunately, is kind of put in these positions to operate. Because I would imagine for NFL, that is longstanding, hundreds of years old at this point, or at least 150, let's just say, clubs that have their own franchises, facility, all these things. Maybe those protocols are easier to adhere to because all of those things are in place. And here we are in women's sport, where not all of those things are at immediate, accessible reach. So I do wonder if there's room for a couple things. Is there room for grace to say the league it took a few days, but they're getting to the point where many wanted them to get to that night? And is there room to have grace for that line of thinking in this moment?
I'll jump in. There's some grace, and I think it's going to be really contingent on what's next. What are you changing? Is there more, like Jen, I've been in those where you're doing all of the heart rate testings, you're doing every single thing to make sure that you're perfectly healthy to perform in a season and jump into a preseason. Now is it bringing it in every quarter throughout the season that you're getting those tests done? Are you using the data with maybe a heart specialist that you get from wearing your heart rate monitor and your GPS every day and making sure that there's no abnormalities that need to be checked out while you're training? I think that there's a lot of ways in which there can be so much more thorough medical practicing that the NWSL hasn't been confronted dealing with until just now. So I have faith that the league and teams specifically are just going to be doing that to make sure this never happens again. Because at the end of the day, it's not just a player, that's a human being with a life well beyond a playing career. And your health is utmost important, especially when it comes to your heart. So I think that there's grace, but it's going to be small and seeing how serious are you taking this and what exactly are the steps and how clear is this drawn out moving forward?
Yeah, 100%. Well said. I think there's part of that. It's like there's going to continue to maybe be some of this wait and see approach for sure. You have to continue, at the very least, you got to continue to try until you do get it right. And I think hopefully that is where everyone is across the board at this moment. We'll continue to send our best wishes and thoughts and prayers to Savy King. We are with you all the way here at Attacking Third and across women's soccer. We will be back after a quick break to continue our conversation about women's soccer.
From the first swing to the final hole, recap the PGA Championship with Clubhouse Report, Thursday on CBS Sports Network.
All right, we're back, and so is NWSL. We've got fixtures in week 9. We are just truly chugging along. That quarter mark has said hello and said goodbye. We are full steam ahead already towards this midway point of the season. It is crazy. I feel like we were just celebrating opening weekend, but week 9 has matches that are crammed up in between Friday and Saturday. We've got 4 games on the docket for Friday, May 16th. Gotham against San Diego, Racing Louisville against Seattle Reign, Houston Dash against Portland Thorns, and Orlando Pride against Kansas City. Don't worry, we're going to chat all about that one and how we feel about it. And then Saturday has got North Carolina Courage versus Chicago Stars, and Washington Spirit against Utah Royals to cap it off, of course, with a late nighter, Bay FC versus Angel City. And that means, of course, you can tap back in with me in the midnight hours on your Saturday night. Come to Club A3. We've got your back for sure.
It's going to be lit.
We're going to have a good time. Come as you are. Bring your best sweater or bring your favorite cocktail, your favorite mocktail, whatever you want. We will be here waiting for you. Don't worry.
That sounds good. I'll join.
There you go, Jen. Come through. Just a quick flight to Scotland. It's all good. Let's get into what we've got cooking for Paramount Plus and Golazo Network. North Carolina Courage are going to face Chicago Stars. You can catch this one at 5 p.m. Eastern. And the Courage kind of in an interesting position right now because there was the argument that we talked about pretty frequently in the opening 5 to 6 weeks of this season, where the question was constantly like, what are they doing and are they going to turn it around? And it might feel a little bit like they're finally turning that corner. They find themselves on a 3-game unbeaten streak, 2 wins and a draw, racked up 7 points. still at the lower half of the table, but looking promising. And that draw coming off of against an Orlando Pride team that's reigning champions, title holders, Shield winners. It feels like maybe, just maybe, things are clicking. Or are either of you of the opinion that there's still some work to be done here for the Courage? And is this the game to make sure that they solidify that progress?
I'm nodding because I think I've really enjoyed watching them actually the past couple of weeks. I thought they were really unlucky to not get all 3 points against the Pride. That last minute Banda header just got it, obviously the tie, but I think the football they've been playing is starting to sort of transcend to wins. And I think this weekend against Chicago is another huge opportunity. Chicago, obviously, we've spoken about them a lot, not on great form whatsoever this season. But I think for the Courage, I loved watching them play. I thought they were back to playing that sort of possession-based style with an end product a little bit more recently. They're not quite there, but I think for them, confidence-wise, the improvements have been really good. And I think going into this weekend, it's a huge opportunity. I think I'm confident they're going to get 3 points this weekend, and they're just going to keep going on the up.
Yeah, Darian, I wonder, I'm going to let you cook. I do wonder, though, in that quarter mark check-in and even throwing it back to some of the predictions, I think most of us, majority of us, had Courage poised as this sort of playoff team. I want you to say what you're going to say in response to Jim, but I also want you to answer that question for me, too. You still feel like at this point this is a playoff caliber team?
This is definitely a playoff caliber team. I'm not going to rock with Jess Mac on this one because she did say they were going to win the championship. I am not convinced of that just yet. Sorry, J-Mac, but I'm not convinced of that just yet. I think the draw with Orlando, the conceding the goal is unfortunate. We know Casey Murphy's going to want that one back. We've seen her do that, perform a lot better than she did in those waning minutes of the match. But I think that it was a lot of confidence. And I think what I'm still looking to see from the Courage is they are sharing the load of who's scoring goals.
Yeah.
There's not a definitive, this player's going to put it away. We know that we have the most hungry number 9 or whatever it is that's going to be hunting in front of the goal. It's still very much, I don't know who's going to score in the match. Is it Denise O'Sullivan? Is it Ashley Sanchez? Is it Ryan Williams? It's there's a list of players that we can throw out there. And so I think if they can continue that trajectory where it's a little unpredictable, they're going to be one of the most team-looking build-up franchises and share the load of who's going to put goals away, then that's great. But I think I'm still looking to see who on the Courage is going to take that on their back and lead the team in front of the net. I'm not fully convinced. Do I think they're working towards it? Yes, but I still need to see that to say if they're going to really, really flip things around.
It's crazy to think that, even the list of players you list off there for scoring goals, Jaden Shaw is not mentioned in that. And
not even starting.
It's so difficult, yeah. And I think they just haven't got the best out of her yet. And I know she's young, and look, she's still developing. Okay, that's what I want to emphasize on. She still has so much quality. I thought she performed really well last season for San Diego, made the move, and it's not quite happened for her. She's not getting the minutes she wants, but do I think they can still get the best out of her and let her develop into that role? Because we all know she has the quality. We've all seen it. But it's just, can they, and how they do that, I'm not sure. But I think when you've got someone in your roster at least with that quality, you can try and get the best out of them. Sandra, I'm not sure what your thoughts would be on that one.
I think early on, you don't want to hit a panic button too early, right? But at one point during this Courage slump that they were in, they're kind of work that they've kind of worked themselves out of, I was kind of in this camp of you're going to have to make those hard decisions as a coaching staff, and you're going to have to figure out, it's not so much maybe the tactics and changing the formations, it's maybe figuring out the personnel and figuring out who that ideal starting 11 is. And those are very difficult decisions to make when you're looking at players that have been longstanding on your roster, ones that you just arrived in, who have just arrived in the offseason, especially when it is a player like Jaden Shaw, who is such a high prospect and who all of us can agree hasn't even scratched the surface of that ceiling. Those are still difficult decisions to make. This is a headline player for your team through the offseason, promoting as this is going to be eventually one of these sort of franchise face type of players. But at the same time, you have to make those calls to try, maybe if it's in the best interest of the player, maybe if it's a difficult conversation to have. And now we're sort of seeing Jane Shaw may be given some time to get a little bit acclimated. Maybe they want her to take more of the game in on the bench before, kind of putting her out there and feeding her to the wolves. I'm going to be placing a lot of that expectation upon her. Maybe they're trying to take some of that off a little bit. Maybe those are the conversations that are being that are happening. And I think when you have this sort of 3-game streak, this unbeaten record, maybe you also kind of have this new conversation enter the chat where it's like, well, do you really want to disrupt what's working right now at this point? And you've worked so hard to get to this point to get things to click. Now, do you try to disrupt that again by weaving newer elements or reintroducing elements into the game? But I do feel like if they wanted to, maybe this is the game to do that against Chicago Stars, because I hate to do it, but it is the house of blues for Chicago, baby. It's tough. It's tough to watch week in, week out. And I will give the Stars this. They had that response, right? I think that's what everybody looks for in a team. When that big shakeup happens, that big decision comes where a club departs with a coach, you look for that response, right? And we saw that. It came in the form of a scoreless draw, but we saw that against Gotham FC. And then we saw a lot of chaos out of that second game against Washington Spirit. So what is this third game going to look like for the Stars, kind of post Donaldson era, and going up against a Courage side that are perhaps finally trying to hit their stride? I think that if you kind of widen that lens and you technically have two teams that are still trying to figure things out, and you're the Courage and you want to add more layers in, again, maybe this is the game that you do that for. And then for Chicago, I think, unfortunately, at this point in their season, even though it's only week 9, there is that concept of like, how are they going to continue to navigate this season without Mel Swanson? Because that's another one of those updates. She and her husband, Danson Swaby, are going to go ahead and expect a baby, and she's been at the sidelines now and showing face there. And so now you are going to be without your star player. So who and what is going to kind of maybe take over this team, and what is really left to play for Chicago for the remaining weeks of this season? I'm not too sure. Maybe this is a game that's going to invite a lot of chaos and even less answers to so many of these questions.
I was going to say, when you're a team like Chicago, Jen, I have no idea if you've played on a losing team in a season. I have, and it's horrible. Yeah. But the way that you can approach a game like this is NC Courage are on a hot streak. Sure, let's spoil it. We can be one of the most unpredictable teams that I think they proved it last week against Washington Spirit. We'll put some away against you. Watch this. Watch this be, maybe the team is going to drop to the level they think that we're at, and they come out swinging. Chicago still have a really talented team. Jamise Joseph, Ludmila, Sam Stab leaving from the back, Harry Recaro in the midfield or in the back line. Alyssa Nair is their freaking goalkeeper. They're still a great team. Yes, there's turnover and chaos and whatever's happening in Chicago. But when you're on the field, that is one thing you can control, is your work rate and how messy you can make it for another team, especially when, hey, maybe tactically Chicago's trying new stuff. They have an interim coach there. Who knows? Let's just go out swinging and make the game as miserable as we can for the opponent. And knowing how North Carolina plays, there's big vulnerabilities in those transition moments. Yeah. Now we're seeing on set pieces, there are ways to hurt them. It's just another team, as I think how Chicago has to approach it, and they still have a chance.
Yeah. We'll see.
I love that mindset. I think the shot against Gotham would have been huge for Chicago, knowing that, coming up against a player like Esther and keeping her relatively quiet and not, getting more goals to her name for this season. It's moments like that you have to take into more confidence going into the next. And I think you're spot on with a player like Ludmila, watching her this season and her threat in behind. And you talk about when players are missing, whether it's injuries or having babies, who needs to step up? The rest of the team needs to step up. And for me, Ludmila has been one of those players massively going forward, especially in the front line. So for me, it's as long as you can set the foundations, keep shutouts, and knowing that you've got an attacker and a striker that can threaten at any point, you set yourself up well going into the next game.
Yeah, for sure. I think Mike Tiny too is another player that has to continue to have strong games for Chicago. I mean, this is a team and really a franchise that has been so thirsty to have an anchored midfield at this point. So we'll see if that's going to play a factor for Chicago to maybe try to disrupt some things, because North Carolina has a pretty good midfield themselves. So we'll see. This is the one we've got for you on Golazo Network and Paramount at 5 p.m. Eastern. Any predictions for this game? I think the Kurds are going to take it. I think they're going to take it 2-1.
2-0. That was me.
2-0.
Yeah.
No.
No?
Oh. You said 0-0 or 2-0?
2-0. 2-0 with Courage.
Oh, I thought you said 0-0. I was like, no. I believe Lisa and I are on the coverage. I'm going to go, I'll go 2-2. I think it'll actually be open, and I think Chicago, I have some belief. I'm still riding with Chicago. Sandra, I'm with you. I've got faith.
I'm like, they'll get one at least, something. You know, they'll bring nothing else, at least some chaos. We'll see. We've got a lot of other matches on the docket for Week 9, but we absolutely have to chat about this one. Orlando Pride versus Kansas City, current number 1 versus number 2. I'll just call it like so many are seeing it. Darian, is this a preview of the NWSL final?
I'm not convinced yet. I know we're going to talk. Jen and I love San Diego, y'all.
Yep.
I love San Diego. I love the way they play. I'm not writing them off from, I think, finding their peak later on in the season. We're seeing the moments of brilliance. It's kind of like this.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to see them hit that stride at the end of the season. But obviously, top 3 teams in the league right now with Orlando and Kansas City. What the most interesting matchup to me is Kansas City has added a layer to their game with Bia and her hold-up play. I talked about this on Sunday. She adds such a different wrinkle where she attracts players. She's incredibly strong and technical. She's also a player that slips passes. And it allows everybody to play a little bit more free. Whereas they can just rely on Schwinga, a Cooper, a Dabinia to work magic. But also when you add a hold-up 9 like that into the match, it causes so many more issues. Jen, you can speak to that for a back line. You're worrying about speed. You're worrying about balls over the top. You're worrying about center back having to track B into the middle of the pitch. That's a lot of gaps that open up. Whereas Orlando, I want them to have that added layer into the match, because I think that they've become predictable in the attack, and that's why we've seen them have a little bit of a hiccup at this point in the season, is teams know how to defend against Banda and Marta now. Jen, you agree?
Yeah, like as much as I think it's hard to say teams know how to defend against Banda and Marta, because they're 2 of the most incredible. And when you're talking about different styles, one that creates the space and one that is absolutely frightening in space. So they have this sort of balance. But Pride have been struggling a little bit recently. They haven't been on the same sort of form. And then on the flip side, I thought KC were absolutely frightening to watch at the weekend against Bay. I thought their speed of play, seeing Chwenga score, back in that fine form that we're so used to seeing. I thought her finish was unbelievable, just right across the face of the goalkeeper, bottom corner. So to have a player like that back in form, she's obviously struggled this season. And you're right. I think the teams that if we're saying, is it, Clash of the Titans, is it going to be the final that we're going to see at the end of the season? I think I still believe that. Of course, I love San Diego. I completely agree, Darian. Like, I'm a big fan of them this season. But the way KC have been performing lately with Bina, Chwenga back on form, they were just unreal to watch. So this is going to be an awesome game regardless, because still with Banda and Marta still in your team for the Pride, it's an unreal opponent to come up against at this point. So I'm very excited to watch that game, shall we say.
Not to hammer rivalries, because I feel like we've been hammering this since the season, week 1 of this season, but we've talked endlessly about this, and I know we're all in agreement in that those are the best ones when they happen organically. And sometimes what makes them so special is when they are in the moment, because who's to say that this is going to be a rivalry 10 years from now? But from last year to this year, it 100% is. We saw how motivated they were playing against each other and all of the narratives going into that postseason. But let's maybe take that postseason element out of it. We said maybe we're not convinced that this is a preview of the NWSL final for 2025, but maybe we can all agree that at this moment it is a high stakes match in terms of the competitive nature between these two sides, and really just and a long-term view of the table, there's just a few points, 5, separating second place team from the ninth place team. And in terms of form, you both alluding to Orlando and how they kind of have some ups and downs this season to navigate, while the Current are just really, really playing lights out. So when we just narrow lens just this game, is something like a home field advantage, this game being played in Orlando, have a big significance for the Pride going up against the Current for this week, Darian?
I think so. Guys, Jen, you played in Orlando. It is hot. The humidity is miserable. I've never sweat so much in my life. One, just stepping outside, let alone running for 90 minutes. And when you have to travel from Kansas City is also a hella hot state. Don't get me wrong, but it's not in Orlando. Humidity, pitch gets heavy because it's so damp. It's a lot to go and deal with. You have to really conserve your energy in the right ways. So I think with this matchup, another layer to it is who's going to manage the game better. It could be a totally transitional game if they let it get a little out of control with who's maintaining possession, who's not, who's being more secure defensively, who's bombing numbers forward to get a goal. But at the end of the day, it comes down to your energy and striking at the right moment. So I think that, yes, Orlando has the advantage of it being at home. But at the end of the day, it's who manages the game and their energy the utmost best.
I think that's fair. I said, look, listen, maybe I'll bring in predictions on this one too. I think this is going to be a good match. I do think playing in Orlando is going to have an impact for both teams, because we've seen Orlando have to manage that as well. There's two teams that have to play through that kind of stuff. But I look at form going off of last week, going into this week. Kansas City is just they're doing something. We don't quite know what, but they are doing something this year. Dabinia has been incredible. I think she's been warranting a lot of very fair praise in regards to some early MVP chatter. But mentioning Bia Zanerato, I mean, Claire Hutton is putting together phenomenal performances, the type of performances that often go overlooked because this is a player that is just quietly doing their job week in and week out. And so it's like this team has not only got their ideal starting 11 in check and they're going out there and performing week after week, but they're adding in players who are recovering or finding their way back into form, like a Bia Zanerato. And so I do wonder if this is a game that's going to come down to the bench, if it's going to come down to coaching rather than just here's my best 11, give me your best 11s, let's go. If some of those things like managing the flora and the fauna of Orlando is going to be a factor for both these teams, maybe it does come down to the coaching and to the actual bench itself and who's going to have those impacts off of it. And I still think I would also give a little bit of advantage in that category to the Current as well. Maybe this one's a nail biter. Maybe we get like a 1-0 or something like that. And I still give it to Kansas City. Do you guys have any predictions for this one?
I'm going Casey based on form, exactly what you're saying. And also I think it's so interesting that the 5 points separating from second to 9. So it's a real opportunity for these teams to pull away even more and who can do that. But I'm going based on current form, watching them last week, I thought Casey were phenomenal. So I'm going maybe not necessarily a big win, but still I'm going 2-1. 2-1 to Casey. Yeah.
How about you, Dave?
I'm rocking with the Pride.
I'm
rocking with the Pride. I think if there's a moment to flip this around and have your best game, it's going to be against the Current. You know, I think Orlando sometimes we're seeing them this year play at the level of the team that they're playing against. And you have to play your absolute best against Kansas City. So I'm going to go 2-1 to Orlando. Sorry, Lil Mama. I know we'll talk about it on Monday, but yeah, I'm rocking with the Pride on this one. I've got faith.
I love it. See you Monday. Lo, make sure you tune in to all the matches this weekend. Tons of streaks to watch. Wave on a 4-game undefeated streak. Thorns on a 4-game undefeated streak. Racing on a 3-game undefeated streak. Wave face Gotham. Thorns face Dash. Racing face Rain. Make sure you tune into all the games and make sure you tune in Saturday night to catch the recap. We've got more to discuss. We're going to be joined by Greta Kwedar after a quick break. Stick with us. Hello and welcome back to Attacking Third. We've got a special interview for everybody joining us today. Every once in a while, we want to take deep dives into the world of women's soccer, branch out into the community and see what amazing stories are out there and what other folks are doing in the space. And we're going to be joined by Greta Kwedar. She's the head coach of Austin Achieve Polar Bears High School boys soccer team. And made history as the only female coach to ever lead a boys team to a state championship in any sport in Texas, shattering a long-standing glass ceiling in the traditionally male-dominated world of high school athletics. Thanks for joining us. Greta, how you doing today?
Hey, I'm excited to be here.
I'm loving the background here.
Right?
I mean, I'm a soccer coach at a high school, but my main job is I'm the director of college counseling. So we've got all of our places back here where we're helping our seniors go. So.
I love it. I mean, not to, call any particular school out, but have you all seen all of these schools represented? Have students gone to most of these schools or all of them?
Yeah, we've seen a good mix. Not all of them. We haven't gotten a Harvard yet. We have a Duke and a Stanford, but not a Harvard yet. So that's on the list.
Right on. I love it. Okay, let's get into the big one. Why you're joining us here. Last month there was a Class 4A to state final in Georgetown, Texas. And your team secured the title with a 1-0 victory over Gainesville. So the match's lone goal came midway through the second half, and Freddie Lozano scored and sealed the landmark win for the Polar Bears, which I got to say, for a team in Texas, loving that name.
We like to be different. So clearly that's different.
Yeah, no, just, if you don't mind sort of walking us through the buildup to this moment, because I can't imagine getting to a state championship is an easy path in high school, especially.
Yeah, it has been a very challenging journey, but the group of seniors, there were 12 of them this year. And so I've, been with them since they were in their freshman year. So I've had lots of time to develop them and work with them. And then this year, these 12 just returned with a vengeance of like, we're going to do this year. And, my 3 captains were very, very strong. And we had a pretty pivotal loss in the beginning of January in our first district play. And then from then on, we went on a 22-game win streak. So it was like, we had this loss and they're like, nope, we're not doing this anymore. This was not fun. We're going to do 22 all the way through. And we did. And it was amazing.
Hi, I'm Darian. I have to ask, what did it feel like when the final whistle blew at the championship? Just knowing you've been with these kids for so long, you've seen the work that they've gone through all year, especially this season. And how did that feel to just get the win? And what did it mean for you?
When the whistle blew, I think I just went like this.
Nail biter. 1-0. So yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah, from relief. I think we scored with like 15 minutes left. In those last 15 minutes, it was like, just hold on. And yeah, I think I didn't crumble to my knees, but I just felt this like, and a couple of the seniors came up and hugged me immediately, and I just crumbled.
Yeah. Greta,
still crumble.
Greta, I'd love to know the significance of not only down in Texas winning off the back in a soccer program, but what is it like? What do you think the significance will be it being led by a female, and just how important that actually is?
I didn't know that was even a thing until after the game was over. A local reporter had mentioned that to me. And so I had no idea. You know, in our division alone, there's 256 teams that we're competing against across the state of Texas. And so there's just a lot of teams that we're playing against. So to imagine being like the one that's going to win feels kind of crazy. So again, I didn't know, maybe it was a good thing I didn't know any of that throughout the entire playoff process. But since then it has come to my attention. And, you know, there's very few of us. I think I know of like one other assistant coach in the Austin area that coaches boys. And besides that, it's just me. But I've been doing it now for 13 years. So I feel like at least I've established a presence, but it's been hard to be the only one, frankly. And it's been a lot of like inner battles with myself, like questioning myself a lot. And then also like external questions. But I feel like after 13 years, it doesn't get easier, but I'm more used to it. But I hope, you know, there's so many, as you all know, there's so many talented women that play soccer, that coach soccer, that know soccer. And I feel like to be a good coach, you have to really know the game really well. And a lot of women know the game really, really well. And so I hope that more of them want to coach because it's really fun. It's really fun. It's very stressful, but it's really fun. But I hope like a lot of my friends that I played collegiately with, like I think I'm the only one coaching, but so many of them would be such amazing coaches. And so I hope more women feel like they can coach, you know, girls, boys, everyone in between, all different levels, and be successful at it.
Greta, this is so badass. We have to give you your flowers because, you know, Jen and I played professionally, and I've had one other female coach as a pro athlete. And to see you coaching a boys team going on to men is so impactful. And I loved hearing that, you know, you said you had to deal with this internal battle, external questions. How did you overcome that? Because I think we all face imposter syndrome in these space, especially in this sport, because it can be a boys' world. But I really want to know how you overcame those adversities.
Well, the first like 6 years, I would say I was just like, I was young in my 20s. I was like, I'm going to take anyone down. And then like late 20s, when you start to become more self-aware, like that's, I would say when the questions started to come in and creep. But my sister was actually my assistant for 3 or 4 years. And she doesn't take anything from anyone. And so whenever those questions would come up, I feel like I learned a lot from her because she was just like, we're not going to deal with that crap. We're going to keep moving. And so I feel like I learned a lot from her that then when she left me, I was able to continue to like embody her spirit and realize that like we've proven that we can do it. We've had success over the 13 years that we've been doing this. And so at the end of the day, whether the questions come or not, it's like we've proven success and we've proven it again this year. And hopefully that will take care of itself.
Greta, what are the things that you can point to and say are the sort of types of things that have made you a better coach?
That's a good question. I think, you know, when I started going into this, I was a teacher. I studied education at the University of Texas at Austin. I knew I wanted to teach, and I kind of fell into coaching. So I feel like I've taught myself. I played at a high level, and I played Division I at UT. Was not good enough to do anything past that, but I feel like I made it fairly far, and kind of fell into coaching. And I feel like I'm just a natural learner, so I'm always trying to like watch what other people are doing, attend other games. A lot of my students will play clubs, so I'll go watch them play and like learn what their coaches are doing. I spend a lot of time on the internet learning stuff, texting other coaches. So I feel like one is like I'm a natural learner, and then two, I feel like our program here at our school is very unique in that a lot of our students are first generation student, like college students. A lot of our students are from lower income, and so I feel a very important calling to like get to know my players really well, support them with like their high school journey, but also give them the chance to play club because club also can be very exclusive. And so trying to help them. So I feel like, yeah, it's like I'm a natural learner, but then also I just know my players really well. And so I know like what works for them when we're on the practice field or what they need mentally, even more so than physically.
I've definitely got another reason why you're an incredible coach, and it's because you came back to the field after having going through acute appendicitis in the middle of playoffs. I can't even imagine what that experience was like, but what was it like for you? How did you get back so quickly?
So playoffs was 6 rounds. The day of the second round, I was like, my stomach does not feel very good. And in my office, I have a couch for when students come in and they need counseling and they need support. Mm-hmm. And that day I was basically laying on my couch with like a heating pad on my stomach, which I learned you were not supposed to do that, but that was the only thing that was like providing relief all day.
Right.
And my principal walked in maybe at like 2:00 and she's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "No, I don't feel great, but I've got a playoff game tonight, so we're gonna go make it happen." So we drive to the game. It was about an hour away. I make it there. Adrenaline's pumping. So like feeling whatever, but making it through the game. We actually win that game 8-0, which means that the game ends early. So like maybe my team just knew that something was wrong with me because we stopped the game like 20 minutes early, which was amazing. So my mom was in town. My husband was out of town. My mom was in town. I told her after him, I was like, I don't feel good. I don't think I'm going to go home on the team bus. I was like, can I go in the car with you? And she said, sure. As soon as I got in that car, it was like the adrenaline was gone. Everything happened. And I crumbled. I sobbed my eyes out for an hour straight to the hospital. They took me in, could barely walk. And then at 2:30 that morning, I was getting my appendix out.
Wow.
But you were like, I could be vulnerable now. I could allow myself to feel bad. Mom's here. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Had it, but like in a weird way, like that kind of like also united the team because we also had another playoff game on Friday, like 3 days later. And I was like, I got to be out of the hospital in time for the playoff game on Friday. And so I think it also kind of like united the team a little bit. Like we're going to fight for our coach, which I thought was really special in a really sweet way. So
they had your back in a pretty huge way. You all went on to win that state title. Greta, this has been a wonderful conversation. I'm so happy that we had you on and you could join us. I would love to end this with, any advice you'd give to the young coaches out there, or even coaches who have been in the game for a while who maybe want to make a shift in their coaching trajectory or career. What advice would you give to any of those coaches out there?
Yeah, I think what I've learned about myself is trust your instincts and trust your gut. I think people already know like what the right next move is or the right next step in coaching. And I think it's like trust your intuition and trust your gut and follow through with it, even though that can be really difficult and that can be really hard. But I also want people to believe that we need a lot of good coaches out there. As y'all know, like we need more and more and more. And so if people are drawn to it, I would encourage them to do it because it's a very hard job, but it's also very rewarding.
I love that. Greta, thank you so much for joining us on Attacking Third. Congratulations to you and your team on winning the state championship. That's a wrap for us here on Attacking Third. Thank you for joining us on the show. And if you're watching on Golazo Network, we appreciate you. As always, make sure you tap into Attacking Third for all your women's soccer coverage. If you're joining us live on YouTube, stick around. We've got some stoppage time for you and another special interview coming up right after a quick break. We're back with extra time on Attacking Third. Grab your popcorn because it's going to get good, because it's a little bit of a belated birthday gift, and shout out to our one and only Jen Beattie. We wanted to make sure that we had a special guest interview come on here in light of all the games that we're talking about this week, and especially North Carolina Courage, who you can watch in action against Chicago Stars on Golazo Network and Paramount Plus. We're going to be joined by North Carolina Courage's midfielder, Denise O'Sullivan. Woo-woo! Yes. Welcome back. Welcome back, we should say, Denise. We like having you on A3, and we love and appreciate that you want to be on here with us anytime. This was a special request that we were trying to honor from Jen, because we have really enjoyed this sort of turnaround that the Courage kind of find themselves on at this point in the season. Bit of an undefeated streak going into week 9. Let's start there. Can you maybe chat with us a bit about your experiences with this team this season and getting to this point heading into week 9?
Yeah, it's been fun. It's obviously been a bit of a roller coaster, as you've seen, a bit of a rough start for us, but again, a lot of new pieces this year, a lot of young players, everyone trying to fit into their roles, get used to their roles. And yeah, the team has been working really hard. So it's really nice for me to see as captain that we've turned it around. And now we're on a undefeated streak. And yeah, I just hope we can keep that going. But I think with the attitude of these players, how they show up every day, they put in the work, I think we can definitely do that. So it's really exciting.
Denise, you mentioned being captain there and spoken a lot about younger players. How do you think you've developed as a leader? Because especially in these moments, that's so important. Everyone looks at the most experienced players, and you have so many caps for Ireland, and I've been at Courage for a while now. How do you think you've really developed in that leadership role?
Yeah, I think I've definitely gotten used to it. I think when I was asked to be captain by Sean and the staff, I was really, really happy and proud. And look, I take my job really serious, and I take the role of captaincy really serious, and I'm proud to be captain of this club. But at first it was difficult. I think I'm a quiet leader, but I think I lead by example, and that's important to me that I do that because we have such a young group. But I'm not a player that will scream and be loud. I'll show that in my actions, and I think I've come into the role more. I've gotten more used to it, and I think other players have helped me also. KK, Ryan, they're all leaders on this team, and I'm lucky that I have them around me. So definitely was tough to start out with. I wasn't used to it, but I've definitely grown into it. And this year even more, I think I'm after getting used to it more, yeah, for sure.
Sully, thinking of you, my rookie season, you came to the Courage, and I remember, y'all, she came in to a training, turning on a dime, putting goals away, like through passes, like she's a brilliant player, and I've loved just watching you grow, especially now in this broadcast chair that I'm in. But you've had the best attitude ever since I met you, and I feel like it's been so infectious to the team, and that's why you're the captain. And earlier you mentioned the attitude of the team is what's driving this success right now. What is the attitude, especially coming off of the tie last weekend?
Yeah, I think it's just we want to grow and get better every single day, and it's been like that since I've been with the Courage. I think the mentality of the team is really, really strong, and coming into training every single day, we just want to learn, we want to grow, we want to get better as a team. And as I said, we have a lot of young players, so it's up to me and the other veterans to make their life easier here and make them comfortable. Because coming to the Courage, it's not easy. It's a really tough environment, as you know, Darian, to be part of. And every single day you're being challenged. So I think the attitude now is, yeah, we're undefeated, but with this league, it's tough to keep winning. It's tough to keep these teams out of the game. So we got to be focused going into the game again on Saturday and just keep this run going.
Denise, as someone who's been a longstanding player in this league and now with the Courage, I look back at last season and where the team is in this season and how you're all riding this wave of momentum at the time heading into week 9. What are maybe some differences or some new lessons that the coaching staff has been presenting to the Courage and some new things that you have learned along the way? Because even as you're a more experienced player, I always hear so often that it's important to never be too stagnant. So what are maybe some new things that you find yourself kind of just past the quarter mark having picked up along the way this season?
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of challenges. I think changing the formation, I think, has been really important for us. I think it's getting players like Ryan, Feely higher up the pitch, where they belong and where they can create goal scoring chances. I think that's been a big difference for us this year in doing that. And I think for me, it's just been consistent with my leadership. I think I have learned that no matter what challenges we're facing, I think this league is the best in the world. You're always going to go through tough times. So I think it's just being level-headed as a player and making sure I never change as a person and be consistent as I can for the team. So I think that's been very important throughout these past 6-7 weeks, however long it's been, to just keep positive and keep driving the team on.
I always find formation changes fascinating, right? Whether you're involved in it or seeing it from an outsider's perspective. Was that a gradual thing? Did it come from players, or was it up for discussion before it was actually implemented? And do you think it definitely benefits the roster where you're at right now, though, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think it suits our players. And look, Sean is always studying the game and changing things up, and he's really fantastic at what he does. So we leave it to the staff. We don't have those discussions at all. We just come into the locker room and the formation's changed, and we just have to adapt to it as players. So the staff do a great job with that. But I also think they recognize that the players we have, I think they wanted to try and fit in all the players that we have to get them on the pitch. And with the roles of Ryan and Feely, getting them higher up the pitch, I think it's really helped, and they've noticed that. So yeah, it's been enjoyable. But look, it's a long season ahead, and we just got to keep grinding it out and keep going.
Sully, we were talking earlier on the show about the courage, and there was some changes from last year. Caroline's no longer with the team, and she put a lot of chances away from you guys. But it seems like in front of goal, you all share the workload of who's going to put a goal away. It's not just relied on one person. Is that the mindset, especially with this new formation and how you guys are playing?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's this team down to a T. I think we have really world-class players, but everyone shares the load all over the pitch. And I think that's how we get through games, because we are such a tight-knit group. We are a team. I think other players have some players, one player that will take the game away from them. We share the load in that. And as you can see, KK scored, Ryan scored, Feely scored. So they're defenders. So we definitely spread the load out. And obviously you don't want to be dependent on your defenders to score goals either. So yeah, it's a good thing, I think, that we have that, and each of us take responsibility to try and share that load for sure.
I love it. You heard it here first. Denise is going to get a cracker this weekend.
one cracker a year.
Stay tuned for sure. Denise, thank you so much for joining us and being with us on Attacking Third, helping us give this belated birthday gift to Jen Beattie.
Happy birthday, Jen.
Happy Thank you.
I love it. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you to our wonderful audience joining us live and participating in this interview as well. We appreciate you so much. Attacking Third will return this Saturday at midnight Eastern time. So make sure you tap in to hear us discuss all the major takeaways from week 9 in NWSL. And of course, you want to know who made our weekly best 11 Attacking Third's Team of the Week. So make sure you tap back in on Saturday. Follow us, Attacking Third, wherever you get your podcast. Leave a 5-star rating and a review. We're available on youtube.com/Attacking Third. Catch us on CBS Sports Golazo Network for all your women's football coverage. For Mark Seaman, Darian Jenkins, Jen Beattie, I'm Sandra Herrera. This was Attacking Third. Thanks for being here.